Hello, I'm Jyotika. Welcome to Excelling Psychology. In today's class, we will begin right at the beginning of the first topic for A levels AQA syllabus, which is social influence. And within that, the first topic we have is types of conformity. If you're a UK AQA student, this is very useful to you because this is the very first topic. Even if you're Oxford International AQA students, if you're outside the UK and you're following the international syllabus, in that case also this lesson is equally useful to you because social influence is your second topic. In this lesson, I'm going to cover types of conformity first, out of which all the three types are there in the UK syllabus. Only identification is not there in the international syllabus. So the rest of the lesson will be useful to international students also. And then I will go through explanations of conformity, which is helpful to both students, UK and international. So in part 1 of this video, I will be explaining types of conformity and explanations to you. In part 2 of the video, we will solve actual past paper questions that have come in on this topic. Let's begin with types of conformity. Before we look at the types, we should know what conformity is. And even before we know what conformity is, we should not know what the larger topic is, what social influence is. Though not mentioned explicitly in the syllabus, and so it's unlikely to be asked what social influence is, still you should know for your better understanding of this topic and to develop an interest in the topic. Humans are social animals, as you know. We live in societies, we cannot live in isolation. So all the time, the attitudes, behaviors of others keep on influencing us. They have an impact on our behavior. A simple example of this is today, if you hear that most people are turning vegetarian or vegan, for example, you might also consider, even if you don't actually convert yourself, you do think about it once, you take an interest and you think about, okay, should I also do the same? That means what others are doing, what they are suggesting, like what opinions they have, that does influence the way you think and you behave. So, this unit is all about how others have an impact on your thinking and behavior. There are many ways in which other people can impact you. There is, and majorly, these ways are conformity, obedience, and compliance. Now, compliance has been taken within conformity in this case. From our syllabus point of view, mainly it is conformity and obedience. And of course, there's a little bit on minority influence, which is there later. We are beginning with the first type of social influence, which is the conformity. First, let's just take a very simple meaning of conformity. It is following the behavior or the attitude of the majority. So, very simply, we can understand it as following the majority. You're a student, so let's say today you go to school and you see most of your friends have colored their hair in a certain shade. Do you feel a kind of pressure? Just think about it. Would you feel a kind of pressure to color your hair in the same shade? Or would you feel like the odd person out? Say you are the only one who's not colored their hair. Would you feel odd because of that? In that case, you will have experienced that sense of pressure that comes in when most people are doing something. You feel as if you are also obliged to do the same thing. Because of that, many times, not always, but many times, you end up doing what most other people are doing, even if you hadn't thought about it by yourself. Just because you've seen them doing those things, you do tend to do it. So then you might end up coloring your hair in the same shade. That is what we call conformity, doing what most other people are doing. Right at the beginning, you should know social influence is neither good nor bad. It depends for what type of behavior you're getting influenced. Then you can decide whether it's good or bad. So when it comes to conformity, following what the majority is doing is not good or bad by itself. Depends what you're doing by looking at the majority. Then we can take a stand on whether that's the right thing to do or not the right thing to do. As of now, in the syllabus, first we have to know types of conformity before we delve into deeper issues. So let's understand the ways in which conformity can take place. These types of conformity have been proposed by Kellman. It's not absolutely important to remember his name, so it's up to you. You should be able to name all the three types correctly for the paper. You should know a definition of each and an example. You could be asked one marker questions or select choice type of questions like MCQ, multiple choice, in which for 1 mark you should be able to understand from the meaning itself which concept has been asked in the question, or you should be able to give the meaning or definition of the concept for 1 mark. Sometimes a 2 marker question can be asked, in which case a definition and an elaboration is expected. So typically how you answer is by giving the definition of the concept and then giving one example. An alternative way of answering would be to give the definition and to contrast that type of conformity with some other type of conformity. Both approaches are acceptable. So make sure you prepare from that point of view, that in case a 2 marker is asked, you can define and give some detail of the concept. And if they ask for a 6 marker, like say in a 16 marker, or in the international syllabus in a 20 marker, if they're expecting AO1 for 6 or 8 marks, in that case, all three types will be asked together, all two types will be asked. So make sure that you can define and elaborate on each type. Again, like I said, mainly you have to think of it from a definition plus example point of view. Okay, so let's see now which are the three types of conformity. The first type is internalization. This classification is based on whether you genuinely accept and agree with what the majority is doing, and that's why you follow suit, or it is just that on the surface or on the outside you're following what they're doing while internally not agreeing with their behavior. So it's more a classification that's based on agreement or disagreement with the majority. The first type within this is internalization. Internalization, as the name suggests, is when you make the attitude or behavior of the majority your own. You take it inside you or you internalize it, means from deep within you agree with what the majority is doing. And that's why you start following their behavior. So the definition given here is when an individual genuinely adopts the group's norms as their own. If you've done psychology at GCSE level, you would know what norms are. Even if you haven't done it, right now you can understand norms are unwritten rules which the majority has set, which are expected to be followed by all of us. So norms are simply rules. They're not always told to you explicitly. They're not laws. They're not binding on you, and you will not receive legal punishment for not following them. But if you don't, in that case, you might not get very favorable treatment from others. We'll understand soon with an example. First, let's understand this sentence. So, when you genuinely adopt, means you agree with, you feel it's the right thing to do, and that's why you follow what the majority is doing, then you're showing internalization. Let's say, for example, your friends suddenly turn vegan. It looks sudden to you, but they have been thinking about it from a long time, and they have been looking up to why a person should turn vegan. Now they suggest the same to you, or you simply observe them that now they've started eating only food which are vegan, and so you feel that sense of, like I had said earlier, pressure that even you should do the same. So you just go and ask them what made them change their eating habits. And then they give you some reasoning as to why they turn vegan. Say they tell you that it is to prevent cruelty on animals. They feel that following a non-vegetarian diet, or a vegetarian diet for that matter, shows cruelty towards animals. Animals have to suffer in the production of that type of food. Now you agree with their opinion. You agree with their reasoning, say you're listening to it for the first time, or they tell you in a way that they give you a lot of good logic behind why they are doing that behavior. and you feel, yes, this is the right thing to do, being vegan is correct, you have realized that, and that is why you turn vegan. In that case, you have internalized the behavior that was being done. So that you can remember as an example. In this case, what changes is your public and your private beliefs. When you internalize behavior, in that case, your public means what you show on the outside, and your private, what you think on the inside, even when no one else is present, or with what is like only to you, only you know your thinking. That has also changed. So both your outside behavior and your inside opinions have changed in the case of internalization. So genuinely inside now you think being vegan is correct, and on the outside you eat only vegan food. Now, because the change is internalized, it's going to be enduring, it's going to be long lasting. Let's say these were your school friends who turned vegan, so even you did. Now you move ahead in life, many years pass by. You are now at a career stage, you're no longer in touch with these friends who were with you in school. Still, it is very likely that you will continue to be vegan because your thought process has changed since that time, since when you spoke to them. And because now you agree with that behavior, you're doing it willingly. So that is why it's very likely that unless someone else gives you a different type of reasoning, or your thought process changes later for some reason, unless that happens, you will continue to be vegan. So it's not like once you lose contact with those friends, you'll go back to your earlier diet habits. That is what internalization is like. The second type of conformity is identification. Identification is when you identify with others, that is, you admire the people you are with, you feel you want to be like them, you reflect yourself against how they are behaving, you reflect upon yourself, setting them as the standard, and that is why you follow them, because you believe that by following them you can be like them. So here when you show conformity, here when you follow what they are doing, it is because of your sense of admiration and desire to affiliate with the group, to associate with them, or to belong to that group. So continuing with the same example, say your friends have turned vegan, you like them, you find them, say you find them cool, you find them happening, and you want to be just like them. You want to be identified just like them. So to appear cool and fun just like them, you feel it will be a great idea to turn vegan just like them. So you're doing it out of admiration for them because you really like them, and you also feel it will help you belong to them. So you will be seen as one unit with them. In this case, as we would expect, your behavior changes in public, not in private, because your reasoning hasn't changed. From deep within, you haven't really understood why they are doing that behavior. Let's say, for example, even if they've given you a reasoning for why they've turned vegan, you don't really agree with them, still you turn vegan outwardly just to be affiliated with them. So, from inside, either you don't know about what their reasoning is for turning vegan, or you don't agree with that reasoning. But still, on the surface, you show conformity. That is what identification is like. The purpose of identification is to get acceptance from the group. Either you admire them so much that you want them to feel that you are also just like them, or to feel a sense of connection. As we saw earlier, you want to feel as if you belong to them, and you feel as long as you don't do the behaviors that they are doing, you are distant from them. Here, you do not privately agree with what the group is doing. So, say tomorrow for some reason your attraction towards them decreases, or you're just no longer with them, you move on, you go ahead in your life, you're no longer with your school group. Now you have a different set of people whom you are with. at that time you will not be found to continue with that behavior. So if you turned vegan in school because your friends were vegan at that time, it is very unlikely that you will continue after years or after you disconnect with them to be vegan. Then you will revert to your original behavior, which was of, say, following a non-vegetarian or a vegetarian diet. So once you lose connection or you lose admiration for that group, they no longer appeal to you. In that case, your behaviors will revert to original. That only goes to show that there's only public change and not private change in behavior. So internalization is both public plus private change. Identification is only public change. Now coming to compliance. Compliance is similar to identification, which is why students get confused. It is also about only public change, not private. But the basis of compliance or why it takes place is different from why identification takes place. So it is important to understand that nuance which distinguishes the two. In compliance, what happens is a person outwardly agrees with the group not because of admiration or because of affiliation. It is mainly because of pressure that the person feels to agree with the group. So it's kind of a forced outward agreement while private beliefs remain the same. So the basis of identification is admiration or affiliation, like we have seen. But the basis of compliance is pressure, force. So let's say, for example, your friends have turned vegan. You do not want to, you don't agree with the vegan diet, you believe in your non vegetarian or vegetarian diet. But what happens is, once they have turned vegan, if you sit with them and you eat vegetarian food or non vegetarian food, they do not tell you anything directly, but they look visibly upset. They look uncomfortable sharing the table with you and eating with you. So through their body language, you get that message that they are not liking being with you. That creates a sense of pressure or force that at least when they are around at that time, you should have vegan food. So at least to school, you should carry a vegan lunch, even if at home for dinner or otherwise you continue to have non-vegetarian or vegetarian food. So that's the kind of pressure you feel. Other ways of exerting pressure could be that because you are not doing what they are doing, so they start talking to you a little less, they become less interactive with you, or from time to time they keep on bringing up the topic of why you should be vegan and indirectly hinting to you that that is a good diet, so trying to persuade you to change your diet. Some cases they could also be direct and tell you what you're doing is wrong in their opinion, and instead of that you should be doing the right thing, which is what they are doing. So in all these cases, you comply. You feel a sense of pressure. You don't want to be isolated, or you don't want to argue with them. You don't want to rebel, and that is why, on the surface, on public level, you do what they are doing, but in private, you do not agree with them. That is compliance. Another point of distinction between identification and compliance is identification is a little more enduring than compliance. Because you admire the group in identification, even when they are not around for the time being, say for a few weeks, months, or years, whatever it is, you might continue doing the behaviors that they are doing. For example, you continue to be vegan even in their absence because it makes you feel like you are one with them. But in compliance, the behavior will only be shown, the compliant behavior will only be shown as long as the group is around. So it's very momentary, it's not enduring. As soon as they move away, behavior will shift. So at home, like I'd given the example, on the very day that a person is having a vegan lunch at school, on that very day their dinner might be something non-vegetarian. So compliance makes behavior shift very quickly. Within the day itself, within a few minutes itself, behavior can change. So this is the most surface level type of change. And the moment pressure is gone, say For example, the group changes. Say one or two more people come in who are non-vegetarian and they have the courage to say no and they don't agree with the vegan diet. So this person was originally not agreeing with the vegan diet, just with the help of those one, two people who are now not following the same diet, they will also assert themselves and stop having vegan food. So the moment pressure is lifted off in any way, say the group moves away, they move to a new group, immediately they will revert to original behavior. So, what we've seen at the beginning, internalization is the deepest level of change that takes place because it is from the core, it is from within the individual, it is an attitudinal change which is resulting to change in behavior. Identification type of change is more superficial. It's not very deep. To some extent, attitude changes, but not reasoning does not change, thinking does not change. It's just out of a sense of connection that is felt from within that outside behavior is changing. So it's not an attitudinal change. Identification is just a surface level change. Like we saw, it is more of we can call it admiration type of change. Just a minute. Or it's just a need based or a requirement type of change. I need to affiliate or I need to associate with this group, that's why I'm changing. And finally, compliance is the most superficial type of change. It is pressure based change, it is out of necessity, like out of not being able to stand up at that time for one's needs, like out of force that change is taking place and for no other reason. In the paper, the most common type of questions, we'll practice a few, but you should just know from this topic, the most common type of questions are the match the column multiple choice types objective questions, in which either the definition will be given and you have to give the correct term. Second most common are the definition type of questions in which the term will be given and you have to define. In the match the column objective type of questions, they can also give you example, this person is behaving this way, which term correctly applies. So say for example, there's a girl who has changed her hair color just to fit in with the rest of the group because she likes them. So then which of the three types it is? So you have to answer it as identification. And then 2 markers can come up, definition and example, or 6 marker can come up in which you have to combine all the three topics. Most probably it will be combined with the next section also, explanations. So types and explanations for 6 marker AO1, and of course evaluation will also follow. So you have to know evaluations as well. Even for this topic, like many students feel this topic is purely descriptive. In these three concepts, there's nothing to evaluate. There's a practice question ahead in the next part of this video, in which I'll show you how you can do an AO3 analysis for this topic as well. So be aware that it can come. Don't take it for granted or don't assume that evaluation can't come from you. It's not very popular in the paper, but it can come. Now coming to explanations for conformity. So we've seen various ways in which people can conform. Now the question is, why do they do that? For each type of conformity, we have seen its own individual reason why the person is doing it. But there are broader reasons for conformity as a whole, if we take it, regardless of the type of conformity, why people conform in general. There are two broad reasons which have been found. This theory has been given by Deutsch and Gerard. Again, it's up to you. You want to remember their names or not. It's not compulsory. You can remember the name of the theory. Again, not compulsory, but I will strongly suggest that you remember the name is two-process theory. Why I'm asking you to remember this name is, when you write an essay answer, say you're writing a 16 or 20 mark answer, 16 if you're from the UK syllabus, 20 if you're from the international syllabus. When you present your AO1, the presentation or the organization is better if you can name the theory before discussing it. So under explanations for conformity, when you say the two-process theory has proposed these explanations, it shows very good theoretical knowledge on your part and gives very good clarity to the examiner as to what you're covering. So from that perspective, it's good to remember the name. It's very simple to remember also, because after all there are two explanations in this. So simply it's called two process theory. According to these researchers, Deutsch and Gerard, there are two basic human needs which result in conformity. These two needs are, one, to fit in or to be accepted by others, which we have seen in the case of compliance and identification. So many times why we are conforming to others is because we do not want to be rejected by them. The second need is information. It's a cognitive need to know something. So many times we need reasoning or justifications on the basis of which we can decide which behavior is correct, which we should be doing, and which we should not be doing. So we have a need for information as well, which we have seen in the case of internalization. We get reasoning for something or information for something, and then we decide to do that behavior. So that comes under informational social influence. So let's understand these two needs and the two types, two reasons for conformity which emerge from them. The first is informational social influence. First, we can mark the need, need to be correct and need to be accepted. So, according to need to be correct, these are, when we say something is a need, we mean it is inborn in a human being. It's like a drive. Right from when we are born, by virtue of being a human being, we have this desire for information. That's why we are calling it a need. It's just naturally there. So, because everyone has this need for information, many times when there is an absence of information, we don't directly know what to do. We feel the best source of getting information is to look at what others are doing. So, we tend to see what most others are doing and we end up conforming. We can mark the second sentence here as the definition. It is that type of conformity, actually, more than type of conformity, it is that explanation for conformity which suggests that out of the need for processing and assessing information, you tend to change your beliefs and behavior according to group. Here, the key term is beliefs, because in this case, you're going to change your beliefs as well, what you think on the inside, not just outward behavior. Like we've seen in internalization already. This ISI is the reason for internalization type of conformity. Let's say, for example, if we take the same example of being vegan, you say have gone in some new school. This is the first time you've entered the school, and you're sitting for lunch for the first time, and you genuinely do not know what type of a diet is acceptable here. Say you've shifted from one country to another and you're just getting to know the country. Now, you did not know before you entered the school that this is a school or a country, maybe at large also, in which people follow a vegan diet. That is their belief. They have strong reasons for why everyone should have only vegan food. So you genuinely did not know what diet habits are acceptable here, and you are the type of person, you need to know what is happening before deciding what you want to do. So you had thought of it that when I come over here and when I see what others are eating, that will give me information on what type of a diet is expected, and I will do accordingly. So here you genuinely want information, you want to know what is right, what is the right way of behaving here, and so you actively find out which type of a diet is being followed. You look at them or you ask them. And like we've seen previously, you find out the reasoning also. You want information on to be right. So you also want to know why are they following this diet. So you find out from them and then you change behavior. So what results is internalization. You've got the information that you were looking for. The information has made sense to you. You are agreeable with it, and that's why you've decided now, even I am going to be vegan because what they are saying is right. This is good for health. This is good for the animals. This is good for the environment at large. That is why I want to follow this diet. So this is one way in which we get influence, is one reason in which we get influence, because we actively desire information, because we genuinely want to know what is the right thing to be done. Now, but there is another type of influence also which we are going to see, the normative type. So we should know when is it that we are going to show this type of conformity and when is it that we are going to show that type. Means when is ISI going to be the reason for conformity and when is NSI going to be the reason? Usually, ISI is the reason for conformity when we are in unfamiliar or ambiguous situations. Ambiguous means unclear situations where the right answer is unclear. As far as diet is concerned, we can still have a lot of clarity on it, and easily information is available around as what is the right thing to do when it comes to eating. In any culture, information is available. Sometimes information is not readily available. Let's say, for example, you have again gone to a new school, and it's the physical exercise period. The first time physical exercise or sports period is there. You've gone to the playground, you've been instructed to go to the playground, and the coach or the teacher has just left. Now, because it's your first time here, you don't know exactly what is done in this school when it comes to exercise or sports. As you know, in the physical exercise period, different things can be taking place in different schools. So some schools will insist on some particular type of sports students must play in that period. Other schools will just leave it to students, whatever they want to do they can do in that period. Or even other schools might have some type of athletics that needs to be done, such as running, racing, and so forth. So you genuinely don't know out of these what you're expected to do. These type of situations are unclear or they are confusing. In that case, you would definitely look at what most other students are doing or ask them what is to be done, and then you would do the same. So when genuinely there's a lack of information isn't there, then ISI will become the reason for conformity. Genuine need for information is there in these situations. Also in crisis, when quick decisions are needed, then the group will be presumed to be correct. Let's say, unfortunately, tragically, you are in a place where a sudden emergency comes up, say some type of rioting is happening around, suddenly people have turned violent and they are starting to break public transportation, they are causing damage to the shops around and all. Suddenly situation has come up like this. You did not know about any hostility that was going around, it's just come up. Now everyone around you, all your neighbors and all your well wishers are telling you that we should just vacate this area, it's becoming dangerous, let's run from here. So you see, most people are just running away because they are saying the situation is dangerous. So in this type of a crisis, quick decision situation, most probably you do the same. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, conformity might appear to be wrong on the surface, because most of us now listen to this a lot, that following the majority is like just blindly following them and not having an opinion of your own. But this is one example of where you can see conformity can actually be useful. It can protect you. Because here it is most probably the right thing to do to just vacate the place when things are turning so dangerous. So conformity can be good also if it leads you to a helpful behavior, which is at that time leaving a spot which is dangerous. Okay, then let's look at what is NSI and how it's a different explanation for conformity. NSI is about simply following social norms. It is about adhering, meaning sticking to or just obeying the social norms which are there. Not for the sake of information, but for the desire to fit in, for the desire to avoid disapproval or rejection from the group. So here the reason for following others is not to be right or not to get information and do the right thing, but the need is to be accepted by them and not to bear their animosity, which we have seen in the case of identification and even more so in compliance. Compliance really showed us how there can be pressure to agree with what others are doing. So if I am, say for example, coloring my hair in a certain way, following a certain diet, or even expressing an attitude which I don't really agree with just to please others, in that case I'm showing normative social influence. That is the reason for being conforming. For example, let's say I totally agree with democracy, and I feel that every country should have a democratic government which represents all people. But as of now, my friends are very aggressively defending dictatorship, and they are saying that dictatorship is the right way to go because, in their opinion, uh, democracy is making people take their freedom for granted. Whereas they feel under dictatorship, it will be seen to it that people follow their rules, their roles and responsibilities, which they tend to shirk off when they are given freedom. Right now, my friends are looking very aggressive in their standpoint. They're heatedly talking about these things. So I do not agree with what they're saying at all. I feel that dictatorship leads to slavery and the vested interests of the dictators are satisfied. I feel at any cost democracy must be maintained. But this is not the time to say that because they are not in a mood to listen. If I tell them, there will be backlash in the sense they all will start arguing with me and they'll be a collective who are like fighting against my opinion. So at the moment, I might just say, yeah, dictatorship is a good idea, and I don't think democracy is really not working out. I'm saying this, but I'm not believing in this. So NSI can be a reason for not only behavioral shift. I just wanted to give you an example of how it can result in expressed attitude shift. Also, on the surface, we show as if our attitudes have changed along with the majority. As we've seen already, NSI will result in compliance more than internalization. It cannot result in internalization because merely out of pressure that is being exerted by the group, your internal opinions cannot change. For opinions to change or for a genuine attitude shift, information is always needed. So, merely facing pressure from the group cannot give you information. So, it will result in compliance. In the paper, they can give you some type of scenario or directly ask you, like, what could be the explanation for compliance in particular. In that case, you should be able to link it to NSI. So, change in opinion will be temporary. In the example which I gave, saying that democracy is wrong is just temporary. The moment this argument ends, I'm back to my original opinion, and I was always. I did not really shift, but I will express it also once this argument ends. If anyone asks me what is right or wrong, I will say democracy is right. Now, just like we had seen, when we are likely to show the need for information is when there is crisis. Same way, there are some situations in which we are more likely to show the need to be accepted more than usual. These are situations in which we have to interact with strangers. So let's say again, if I've gone to a new school and I don't know these students around me well, I haven't formed any friendships as of now. So they are strangers to me. At this time, I'm very wary and very alert about how they are perceiving me, whether they're accepting me or not. I don't want to be rejected right on the first day. Then my friend should I should not be able to form any friendships right from the beginning. So at that time, NSI will be at its peak. I just have very, very strong desire to be accepted because I know my rest of the year depends on this. If they accept me right now, it will just be easier to navigate through the rest of the year. So, definitely, fear of rejection is very high when we are with strangers, and that can result in too much need for being accepted. Even in the case of being with friends or familiar situations, it's not like we don't have a need to be accepted, we do have it. It's just that with strangers, it is high. Also, it tends to intensify in stressful situations. When very big challenges come up in life, that time we really need acceptance from others. Let's say, for example, I'm undergoing a personal financial crisis. I'm about, like, I'm on the verge of bankruptcy or something. At this time, I'm very scared about what is going to happen with me. I'm going to be in a very bad financial situation. I really don't want to be isolated at this time. I really need others at this time. I need their financial help, their emotional help. Maybe I need their contacts so that they can get me another job. So my need for their help and their assistance is very strong at this point. So I cannot afford to be rejected by them at this moment. So at this point especially, I will show a lot of desire to avoid rejection and to be accepted. So this is about the two process model, which gives two reasons for conformity. In the paper, similar pattern which I have explained for types of conformity. From here also you will most probably be asked for definition examples. So I'm not repeating the same thing. One thing very important you need to remember is ISI typically results in internalization. So the link should be very clear in your mind, and NSI results in compliance. Okay, so be sure you know for which type of conformity, which of these is the explanation. So we have covered part 1 here and we have seen the explanation for these concepts. Now let's look at different types of questions which can come. I'm not taking a full essay question today, I don't have the time for that. But I will show you all 3 types of questions in this second part, AO1, AO2 and AO3. So I'll give you an example of each of them. Let's move towards that. These are past paper questions from the UK papers, but they are equally applicable to international students. So even international students can practice the same questions. There's not much difference between AQA UK and international curriculum. Mostly the order of topics is different. Little bit of coverage here and there is extra or less in the international syllabus. But I just want you to know, because for the international syllabus, resources are not as many as for the UK syllabus. I know I'm deviating a little, but just something that could be helpful to you. There are many more textbooks, companions, revision guides for for the UK syllabus compared to the international one. Same way, practice questions, past paper questions are more freely available for the UK rather than the international curriculum. Everything is very limited. All resources are very limited for international curriculum as of now. Definitely, even the international curriculum is growing in popularity, so we do expect soon there will be ample resources. As of now, they are not there. So that is why freely international students should refer to UK resources also. They are just as good for you as the international resources are. Like, for example, you might see an essay question for 12 or 16 marks instead of the 20 marks which you get in your international paper. Doesn't matter. You have to practice in the same way. The assessment objectives are the same. The wording of the questions is the same. And especially when it comes to the shorter answers, 2 and 4 marks, 1 mark answers, they're exactly the same for both the papers. So instead of, many times I see international students are struggling with very irrelevant types of notes, which are just theoretical in nature. And they don't really connect with answer writing or, writing skills. So they end up just rereading the syllabus and they say, we don't have resources, so we are doing that. Why not just take up the UK resources and actually practice answer writing instead of wasting your time just rereading the content in different ways? So just freely make use of UK resources which are freely, easily available for free. You just do a Google search, you'll find many of them. Okay, so keep practicing writing for the paper, that's very important. Any psychology course that you're doing, international course, writing, answer writing practice is key, more than learning the content. So make sure you're doing that. Okay, so one type of question you can be asked is briefly outline and evaluate normative social influence as an explanation for conformity. Okay, first thing is, whenever you look at a question, to break it down in your mind in terms of assessment objectives. That's always step one. Right now, it will take some effort because this is your first topic. Say you're doing it for the first time. Soon it will become automatic. The more you practice, immediately, it won't take a second to think about it. But when you're practicing initially, make sure you break down in your mind the objectives so that you're able to write answers correctly. Here, what most students will do is they'll think, okay, 4 marks. So they just look at the marks. Normative social influence, okay, I need to give 4 points, what I've learned from the textbook. That is where you're going to lose marks. The assessment objectives to be covered here are AO1 for 2 marks, that is description for 2 marks, and AO3 for 2 marks, that is evaluation for 2 marks. How do I know this? Because the wording, the command terms. So next I can look at the command terms. Outline is a descriptive command term, suggests I have to do some AO1 type of answering. Evaluate is an AO3 command term. It helps me to see that I need to give a strength or a weakness. So that tells me I have to do something within AO3. If you're not clear on command terms, look at the specification at the end. Command terms have been given. If you are not clear on assessment objectives, what does AO1 stand for, what AO3 stands for, you can watch some of my earlier videos on AQA syllabus, the exam papers which I have discussed, answer writing practice. It's there on the playlist, AQA playlist. There I've explained at length what AO1, AO2 and AO3 objectives are. It's beyond the scope of this video to explain them again, so you will find them there. So now before answering, I know for 2 marks I have to give description and for 2 marks I have to give evaluation. This will help me to write the answer correctly. For 2 marks I have to write description means any 2 unique points about normative social influence I need to give. And for 2 marks I have to give evaluation, so not necessarily I give in the Peel format only, because that is usually when the evaluation points are worth around 3-4 marks. But at least in a connective way I have to give evaluation. Means I have to give some strength or weakness, not only identify it but also link it explicitly with what I have learned. It all seems abstract, so let's actually write an answer. I'll write it with you and we'll see what this means in terms of writing the answer. Okay, so we've checked out the command term, we have checked out the assessment objectives, and then we are writing the answer. Keep that in mind. You have to take the correct approach to writing answers. Just knowing I know a lot, I've written a lot, that is not going to get you marks. I'm writing a sample answer for this question. Sample answer means that your answer does not have to be identical. Focus on the how I am writing rather than what I am writing. Don't try to memorize my answer. See how I am writing the answer. See what explanation I am giving you. So for AO1, I have to give 2 descriptive points about normative social influence, which I explained to you while teaching only. One can be definition, one can be example, or any detail. So first let me write the definition. Also, do not start directly using the abbreviation NSI. First write the full form of the concept. So I'll write normative social influence. In the bracket, I will write NSI, and now onwards I can keep calling it NSI once I've mentioned what it is. Normative social influence refers to an explanation for conformity which suggests that conformity arises out of a need to be accepted in or approved by a group. I'm going to give you a lot of tips while writing answers, so be ready for that. I'm not going to finish this quickly because I want you to learn how to write answers. I've already told you that write the full form first, okay? That's one thing. Second thing is use good terminology. Psychological terminology has weightage in the AQA paper. Do not write answers in casual language. Do not write in a conversational tone. You're not having a chat with the examiner. You're showing your psychological ability to the examiner. So write as a psychology student should be writing. So use good terms as you have learned: acceptance, approval, those type of terms. I'll give you an example of how a student might write casually, which looks very bad from a terminology point of view. A student might write that normative social influence is when I agree with the group because I want them to like me. Like you is not a good term to be used. It's not a psychological term. Acceptance, approval has a different meaning from liking. No doubt when we are understanding the topic, we use simple words like liking and all so that we can understand better. But how I'm understanding something is not how to write it. I have to write it with good terminology. So in my mind, I can think of it as liking. But when I write, I have to write acceptance or approval because that conveys that I want the group to take me in it or to fit in with it. Liking does not give clarity of exactly what I'm expecting from the group. So, firstly, avoid using extremely simple language which makes it look as if anyone is answering the question rather than a psychology student is answering. There is more emphasis on terminology in the essay answers. I know for 2 or 4 marks they don't emphasize much on terminology. But why not have a habit of writing with good terminology for every type of answer so that it comes automatically when we are writing an essay answer? So make a habit out of it. Always write with good terminology. Initially, what can happen, especially if you haven't done psychology in GCSE and you're doing it for the first time, you might need to memorize some of the definitions. I don't encourage memorization because content is a lot and it's not useful also. If you're learning something, why not understand it? Why memorize? Everything said and done, sometimes to get a hang of using terminology initially, to be good in using terminology, you might have to memorize a few definitions, like word to word as given in the text. Why not? Why not take that effort and do it? It's worth it for a few definitions at least. Then once you get the habit, okay, as you write, as you learn that way and write, you start developing that, okay, these are good terms. Your mind subconsciously starts registering, okay, this is how I should be writing. Then it will come automatically. So use good terminology. If you aren't able to do that at the beginning, then make use of memorization for some time, do rote learning for some time. Once it comes automatically to you, then drop the habit of memorizing. Okay, so first I've given the definition of what NSI is. Now I'll give an example of how it might be seen. Instead of example, if you want for detail, you could also give a distinction of how it's different from ISI, or you can talk about how it relates to compliance specifically. In an AO1 2 marker, they want description and detail. The detail is not fixed, it can be anything. Only what you need to avoid is tautological responses. Don't repeat the same thing that you've written in different words. So instead of giving an example or a different point, if you say that it is about being accepted or approved, and then you say it's about fitting into the group. So if my next sentence is NSI is about fitting into the group, that's not helpful. I'm just restating the first statement in different words. So avoid repetition, circular points, tautological responses. Instead of that, like I had said at the beginning, only give two unique points, 2 points which are conveying something different. So when I give an example, I'm giving a specific application of the definition rather than just repeating the definition again. So for example, a student might color her hair red so that her friends approve of her hairstyling. So this is not mere repetition of what I've written before. This is actually making it concrete. Examples, many students feel, are not worth much. Actually, examples are the best way of showing that you've understood a concept. It really conveys your understanding to the examiner because you're able to show where it occurs in real life. So I feel examples are always the best detail you can give. But of course, like I said, there are other possibilities. Very quickly, I'll show you those. One possibility is you can say that NSI is different from informational social influence, which is about conforming for the desire to be right. So that can be a detail which you can give, that can be your second point. Or your second point can also be that NSI results in compliance type of conformity in which there's only outward agreement with the group but not internal shift in perspective. That can be your second point. Whatever point you write, make sure it's not a repetition one. And second, make sure that you're using good terminology even in that point. Throughout, use good terminology no matter what you're writing. So this is the EO1 requirement. How the examiner will check this is, okay, definition, 1 EO1 mark. And example, okay, second AO 1 mark. Okay, now I need to give AO 3 points. Continuing in the same paragraph, also write in paragraph format. Don't write in bullet point or that point to point type of format. In psychology, you need to have very good writing skills. Psychology is a proper writing based subject. You have to be able to write descriptive essays and research reports in future if you pursue psychology seriously. So the foundation has to be laid here itself. So coming to AO3, evaluation simply means giving a strength or weakness. It's just for 2 marks, so definitely only one evaluation point means either one strength or one weakness I have to give. Like I said before, it need not be very elaborate. So I don't need to follow a strict peel format, but I should not just write a very generic point. I have to avoid doing that. What is the peel format? You can see in some of my other videos, I've really covered it in exam writing. It's a detailed way of giving evaluation. Right now, that's not required for 2 marks. Okay, as I had said, you will have to think evaluatively about types of conformity and explanations also. Many students feel it's a descriptive topic. It's not, it is evaluative. Some textbooks, like the Flanagan textbook, which is the best one, it gives you evaluation points. You can learn directly from there. Other textbook, like the Lawton textbook, excellent textbook, again, indirectly gives you evaluation by giving you research pieces, sometimes very directly also, but mainly it's very, very research focused. So you can pick up some points from there also. Otherwise, just use your general critical thinking, which you've used in research methods, you've learned there, to be able to give a point of your own, to be able to analyze for yourself what's a strength or weakness. If you've done your research methods first, which actually you should be doing in the foundation, research methods and issues and debates before looking at individual topics, in that case, you will know that there is something called reductionism, and you can analyze from that perspective. I know most schools will directly start with social influence, which is why even I've taken it as the first topic, whereas ideally we should be doing issues and debates and research methods first, so that we don't have to depend for evaluation points on the textbook. We can think on our own. Anyways, so if I see from a reductionism perspective, if you already know what it is, you know that NSI is not the only explanation for conformity. There is ISI also. So in that case, you can give that as a weakness, that it is reductionist every time. Conformity is not because of NSI. ISI is also possible. Like I've said, don't give it generically, so don't just say it's reductionist and leave it. That will just barely maybe get you 1 mark, not necessarily it will. It might get you 0 also. Link it to ISI, explain what ISI is, like contrast ISI and NSI to show why NSI is reductionist. Then you will get full 2 marks. So when I say that you must not give a generic response, what I mean is what you've learned in the textbook about NSI, ISI, you need to make use of that while writing the answer, then only you will get marks. Random points will not get you marks. Other possibilities are, you must have seen research studies. I don't remember in which book or where I have seen it, but there was this specific research on NSI in which it was found that with time it is becoming less of an explanation, like it's losing temporal validity. Today, times are such that people want to assert their individualism. So many behaviors of conformity which are being seen are not because of NSI, because the desire to fit in has reduced with time. Rebelliousness has increased. So it might be one explanation which is losing merit in present times. There could be other reasons for conformity, such as ISI today could be a better explanation for conformity. So you can give that research evidence. If you, I don't remember, but if you remember the name of the research is even better, though it's not compulsory. So the example I just gave is of a study which goes against NSI, so that's like a weakness point. In the same way, you can give a strength of studies which have supported NSI. So any of ASH's study itself, like the original study, or variations, which you're studying in details in any ways in the syllabus, ASH's study, that's the best research evidence you can give in support of NSI or any of his variations which he's done. Or you could also give the point on individual differences, that when it comes to liking or approval, from the group. That time, not everyone has this desire for approval. It's too much of a broad generalization to assume that everyone will have NSI. So it will not apply in all cases of conformity. It's an explanation that cannot be applied to every sort of individual. You can give individual differences as a weakness. For now, for the simplicity's sake, the easiest one, like I said, is Ash's support for the explanation. So let's take that one, and how to put it very briefly but in a contextualized way. That is what I will show you. So one strength, even if we are not giving a full peel point over here, just make sure you begin with one strength or one weaknesses so that the examiner knows where you're beginning evaluation. One strength of NSI explanation is that it has been supported by research evidence. So first what I've done, I've just identified the strength and I've explicitly written it's the strength. This is just identification. So for this I can get 1 mark maximum if my next point supports what I'm writing. If I just leave it at this, which some students will do, they just write research evidence and leave, that is not going to be worth anything. I have to only say which research evidence is supported. Ash's study is compulsory to remember in the specification. My next video is going to cover that study. So if you don't understand right now, you can watch the next video and then understand. So Ash's study has to be summarized in one line and we should give his name because normally we don't need to remember every researcher's name. But Ash anyways we're remembering, why not directly connect with that? For example, Ash's classic study of the line task showed that despite knowing the correct answer, a third of responses were conforming to the wrong answer. Out of a desire for acceptance by the group. So for AO3, you can see I have named the evaluation point and immediately I have linked it to the study. Not only like I've not just named Ash's research and said, okay, NSI is found as an explanation in Ash's research. Exactly why and where it is found, I have pointed that out in a simple sentence, that participants were giving the wrong answer despite knowing the correct answer. That shows, like indirectly I'm implying it's not ISI, it is because of NSI that they were showing conformity. So this is the way of writing the example. Okay, so you can take a look at the answer. I'm not planning to upload this to my website. You can take a screenshot if you need it for future reference, but this is how you structure the answer. Just like I showed you how AO1 marking will be done, AO3 marking will be done by looking at, okay, the point is named, but then immediately the examiner will look at, has it been contextualized, has it been explained relevantly, then they will give me 2 marks. If I just say that research evidence is there, that is there for everything that we are studying. All theories, all concepts we are learning are based on research evidence. So that point will not be meritorious. I will not get any AO3 marks for just saying there's research evidence. Only if I've given something relevant to conformity which is actually there, in that case, I will get 2 marks here. Okay, so the first question always takes some time because I need to explain a lot of things and common errors in that. Now we'll be able to go a little quicker. The next question is your very simple, highly scoring MCQ type of objective type of question. Which of the following terms best matches the statements below? So some statements have been given, options are there. So like match the columns type of question it is. We have to choose the item. Only one item, meaning one term, can be correct for any of the statements. And whichever letter is denoting that item, we need to write it next to the example which is given below. You can just take a quick look at what are the terms given from A to E. Basically, it's all the types of conformity and both the explanations which have been named. So now I'm coming to the table with the statements with which we have to match. Let's take a look at the first statement. Publicly changing behavior whilst maintaining a different private view. This is definitely a type of conformity because they are hinting at a behavior which is being done, so it won't be an explanation. So first we can rule out the explanations which are there, like we can ignore B and C. Now coming to which is the one in which we publicly change the behavior but privately we have a different behavior. It can be identification or compliance. So here what we can do is when there's confusion like this, we're not sure which one we should be writing here. Let's look at the next one. Like let's keep this on hold so that we don't make a mistake. When we see a statement which has some better like more directly we can understand which concept it refers to, then we can eliminate that one and we can refer again to the previous and we can write it here. Okay, but we are sure it's going to be one type of thing, one type of conformity. It's not going to be an explanation. Next is group pressure leading to a desire to fit in with the group. Here they are talking about the desire more than the behavior of actually like fitting in with the group. So this can be an explanation rather than a type of conformity. Okay, so when is it that group pressure, which is that explanation which tells us that pressure is going to lead to fitting in? Is it normative or informational? It is normative, right? So here the correct answer will be C. So this was easy to identify because we saw it as an explanation and then we know it can be either one of two only. So see, even here it helps you to know which are the types and which are the explanations. Many times like it's very obvious, but students will not read the broader topic or the title or the heading under which the concepts are coming. Then these type of questions can become little challenging, like they all look similar. But when you know types are separate, explanations are separate, then you're able to easily identify. Okay, so when it comes to group pressure leading to desire, we know normative is the correct one here. Sorry, I didn't want to cancel it. That's accidental. So here we just have to write C. Also follow the instruction very properly. Sometimes students know the right answer, but they don't answer in the way in which it's been asked in the paper. So they just put some tick mark or something. We don't know what they're thinking about. Like they put a tick there and a tick here. They've told you write the letter in the box, write the letter. So never answer in panic. Read carefully what's the instruction. Answer exactly according to the instruction. Don't lose marks for silly mistakes. Next is when a person lacks knowledge of how to behave and looks to the group for guidance. Again, this is an explanation, right? This is not a type of conformity. When a person is doing something, means they're talking about like the reason for why the person is doing it. As such, we've already eliminated C, so it's bound to be B, informational. Otherwise, also, if we think about it, lack of knowledge, desire for knowledge, desire to be right, it's going to be B. So it is informational. These type of questions are very good for review practice also, like before you get to actual writing skills practice, just to check whether you've understood correctly or not, objective questions can be very helpful. Looks to the group for guidance. This is definitely a type, it's not an explanation. And looks to the group, it's like looks up to the group, admires the group, right? Which we had seen under the which type of conformity? Identification. So we had seen it under A. So this is A. And now because A has got struck out and we had kept on hold that The first statement can either be D or A. So now that A is gone, now we can be sure that the first one is D, compliance. So as such, the statement was fitting in for both. But the last statement, looking to the group for guidance, that can't fit with compliance, because there it's not for guidance, it's for pressure. So definitely that we are sure it's A. So now we can be sure the first one must be D. So tricky type of questions you can answer in this way. Okay, now I have shown you AO1, the MCQ type, AO1, the descriptive type, AO3 also I've shown you how to write evaluation point. Now I will show you AO2, how to answer application type of questions. This is an entirely application question, AO2 for 6 marks. Let's read the situation first. The first step to success for an AO2 answer is to read the question with a lot of patience, not to rush through reading the question. Josie, Hannah, and Caitlin have started new jobs, and all three are keen to do well. Josie laughs a lot at the jokes her colleagues tell, even though she does not always find them very funny. Hannah observes her colleagues closely and makes sure that she completes the work in the same way that they do, so that she does not make any mistakes. Caitlin prefers to learn through trial and error. She believes that by trying and making mistakes, she will really understand what she is doing. Which girl's behavior is being influenced by normative social influence, and which girl's behavior is being influenced by informational social influence? Justify both choices. First of all, be question smart, like I've pointed out before. Understand that if they're giving you 3 names and it is worth 6 marks, they're talking about 3 friends and it's worth 6 marks, those 6 marks will be distributed to explaining each friend's behavior. So 2 marks for explaining how Josie is getting influenced, 2 marks for explaining how Hannah is getting influenced, and 2 marks for explaining how Caitlin is getting influenced. Why this is very important to structure in your mind before writing, because some students will say, supposing 2 friends are influenced by NSI. So NSI is applicable to these two. NSI means this, finished. ISI is applicable to this one. ISI means this, finish. Weightage is not correct. To what you are writing, the weightage which you are giving of marks is not correct. When it is 2 marks being allotted for each example or each friend whom they have named, you have to write accordingly. Your writing has to justify 2 marks for each friend. So don't focus on the explanation while writing. Don't think of it as I have to give 2 points about NSI and 2 points about ISI. First thing is, if they just want you to do that, why have they given such a big scenario? Of course, they want you to talk about what's happening in the scenario, not what NSI and ISI is in general. It's not an AO1 answer, it's an AO2. The fact that they give you a scenario tells you it's AO2. Otherwise, they would have just directly asked you what's NSI and what's ISI. So first thing, you have to really contextualize for AO2. It doesn't make sense to write otherwise. Secondly, like I said, look at the weightage given. They are giving it according to the friends. That is very clear, not according to the explanations. So make sure you write in that way. So what you have to think in your mind is, to explain Josie's behavior, I need to give 2 points, Hannah's behavior is 2 points, and Caitlin's behavior is 2 points. So I have to first decide, let me look at what Josie is doing. Okay, which one is applicable, NSI or ISI? So first I need to say, okay, this one is applicable to Josie, then explain why. Same thing for Hannah. Okay, which one, what is she doing, what's applicable to her, why? So I have to structure it in that way. Josie, identify which is applicable, explain why it's applicable. Hannah, identify which is applicable, why it's applicable. Same thing for Caitlin. So I just have to repeat the same process thrice. Secondly, when I'm writing, I have to use wording from the question. The wording which is given here has to be a part of my answer. It can't be general. For example, if I'm saying Josie is showing NSI, because NSI is about desire to be approved, that's not going to get me marks. What is Josie doing which is showing that she has a desire to be approved? I have to use wording from the situation, say Josie is doing this, which shows that she has a desire to be approved. Generally, NSI is about being approved. How is that helping me to explain Josie's situation in particular? So my answer has to be structured first, like I said, and secondly, I have to do it from a strict AO2 point of view. Answers which are AO2 based but which don't make any reference to the scenario, they are not credit worthy at all. Many students will say, for 6 marks, I wrote so much. I wrote what NSI is, I gave the definition, I gave so many examples, I contrasted it with ISI, I wrote such a long answer, but I got zero because you've not met the requirements of the command term, of the assessment objective. So it doesn't matter how much you write. Are you writing correctly? That's going to give you marks. So again, we'll see a sample answer in which I wanted to focus on the how of how I'm writing, because scenario will never be repeated. In one paper they've given this scenario, next time when they want to ask about conformity explanations they'll give a totally different scenario. So this Joshi scenario is never going to come again in the paper. So you don't need to memorize the answer, it will serve no purpose. You need to learn how to write the answer so that when a similar scenario is given you are able to write it. We saw that Josie is laughing at the colleagues' jokes even when she does not agree with them. Like she does not find them funny. This is definitely NSI. She is showing normative social influence, like that can explain her behavior. How it can explain her behavior is because NSI is about being approved. She was definitely trying to be approved by her colleagues when she's laughing. If it was like rightfully she felt that she should laugh, then it would have been ISI. So let's see how to write this. Directly we can start referring to Josie and writing. Also refer to the name. I don't know why students have this habit. Like they've given the name Josie, but they won't write Josie. They'll write the girl, the person, they are laughing, they are doing. Why can't you just write Josie and just be very clear and explicit who you're talking about? Like why are you feeling shy to name the person? I don't know. So what you can write is Josie is showing influence of normative social influence, or you can say her behavior is because of normative social influence. When she laughs at her friends' jokes, at her colleagues' jokes. She does not really find them funny, but laughs because. One minute, I just need to see wording of the situation. She wants their approval. We can just write that much. So you can see I haven't written generically. I've not just written that Josie is laughing because she wants approval, that is NSI. Exactly what is happening in the situation, I've referred to that. What is she laughing at? The colleagues' jokes. She doesn't really. How am I coming to know that she's not doing it because she's really finding funny? Because this is mentioned in the scenario. So I'm saying that she doesn't really find them funny. I have to use wording like this. This is known as contextualization, and I have to answer like this. Okay, so this will give me 2 marks. How the examiner will evaluate is AO2 1 mark for identifying correctly its NSI, which behavior is reflecting NSI, that I have pointed out. Second, 1 mark is for explaining it. Why I'm saying this behavior is out of NSI, second 1 mark is for that. Next, I can talk about Hannah. Okay, I just need to see what Hannah was doing. Hannah is completing her work just like a colleague so that she doesn't make mistakes. So Hannah is showing influence of informational social influence. When she is working in the same way as her colleagues, okay, so again you can see I've pointed out explicitly what is she doing, which is showing that she's under ISI, and then I just need to explain why am I saying it's ISI. She works in this way to be able to do work correctly. I'm not even saying that this is what ISI suggests or ISI says that there's a desire to be right. If you want, you can say, showing that she has a desire to be right, showing that she has a need to be right. You can put it, but not required, because that is more towards AO1. In this, I have implied that she's doing it because she wants to be correct. So again, I will get 1 mark for pointing out what is she doing, which is indicating ISI, and second for explaining why I'm saying it's ISI. Finally, coming to Caitlin. Caitlin wants to learn through trial and error. She wants to really understand what she's doing by making mistakes. So Caitlin definitely is again under ISI because she wants to be right. She wants to learn from her mistakes and avoid doing them. So she's not looking out for any kind of approval. So Caitlin is also working through ISI when she engages in trial and error. So again, I've named what she's doing and linked it to ISI explicitly. So for that, I will get 1 mark. And then I just need to explain for 1 more mark. She likes to try things so that she can learn from her mistakes. Again, if you feel more comfortable, you can say indicating a desire to be right. You can link it with in that way also with ISI. So this is an explanation for why I'm saying that it is information. Another way of writing can be to contrast and say that, see, she doesn't want approval. So it's not NSI because she doesn't want approval, it's ISI because she wants to be right. You can write. Like I've said, these are sample answers, model answers. Your writing style can be different. Just make sure that you're doing the things which I'm doing in the answer, even if you're doing it in your own way. Make sure you're being explicit, you're contextualizing, you're referring to each of the 3 friends and giving equal weightage to explaining what they're doing. Giving weightage, concretely, what it means is following the same structure for writing for each friend, like I have followed. So first just naming the behavior and naming the explanation and then explaining. When I follow that thrice for each of the 3 friends means I've given equal importance to each of them. So the answer becomes worth 6 marks. Let's look at the next question. It is a similar AO2 type of question. Since I have already given you one sample in writing of AO2, I won't write it again. I'm also running out of time, unfortunately. But what I'll do, I'll make some pointers, some outlines. So even when you're in a rush, of course, do writing practice. I'm not saying don't do it. Always write, put in the effort required to get good marks in psychology. But if you are also in a rush like me, occasionally you don't have that much time, you can also practice writing like this. Like just make your outlines. Instead of, just doing mentally is not very helpful. So like this quick outlines you can make for the answers and just check or get them checked whether they are right or not. Okay, so these both also AO2 questions will follow the same principles in answering them like we did for the last question. The first question is, Jan and Nora have just finished their first year at university where they lived in a house with 6 other students. All the other students were health conscious and ate only organic food. Jan has listened to their point of view and now she also eats only organic food. Nora was happy to eat organic food while in the house, but when she went home for the holidays, she ate whatever her mother cooked. Both girls conform, but for different reasons. Explain which type of conformity each girl was showing. The first thing is not to confuse between types and explanations. However obvious it might seem, students are going to do that because somewhere they've given that word reasons also. That's becoming a problem. What is asked in the stem of the question, focus on that. Type of conformity, very explicitly they've told you give the type of conformity. Like they are not saying give the explanation for conformity. So this is not about NSI or ISI. This is about internalization, identification and compliance. Okay. So first be sure of that. Secondly, it's for 4 marks, entire AO2 for 4 marks. Okay, so that means 2 marks you have to talk about Jan, 2 marks you have to talk about Nora. And same structure you can follow which we've done in the last one. First, just identify this is the type of conformity in this behavior shown by Jan or Nora. And second point, just explain why you're saying that that is the type of conformity. So first, if I take Jan, like I said, I'll just make an outline. Okay, I think the screen is stuck. I'll just check. Okay, unfortunately, I'm not able to get the screen connection to work. Something is coming up out of what I've written. Okay, now it's come. Okay, so we can continue. Okay, so now you can see what I've highlighted here. AO2 is for 4 marks. I've given you the structure. Following that structure, I'll just make a quick outline of the answer. I'm not writing the whole answer. So what I can do is for the first point, I can say Jan. I have to say which behavior and which type of conformity. So Jan behavior is of eating only organic food, indicating that even when the friends are not around, she eats only organic food. Means this is internalization, right? Because it's not just public acceptance of the baby. She's not just showing that I eat organic food, she always does. It means internally she's agreed, or it has agreed with her that she should eat organic. So it is, what is it? It is internalization. I have to write correctly. This is the first point that I make. This is the behavior and this is the type of conformity. In the second point, I will explain why I'm saying that it is internalization. Again, your writing style, you can say because it involves private acceptance, and Nora is not only like saying that she's will eat organic food, she's actually eating it. She always eats it now, only organic. You can explain it that way, or simply you can say that she eats only, she's listened to them and she eats only organic food. So this is what shows internalization. The focus being on only that she's eating only that, she stopped eating other types of food. The next point I will give for Nora, in the same way, same structure I'll follow. So the weightage, like I said, has to be the same. What is Nora's behavior? Nora's behavior is to eat organic food only in the house. So first I have to point out this is the behavior which she's doing. So that means that she was happy also. They're saying like it's not, she's not doing it out of pressure. That is what they've indicated. So they're not saying that she was being pressurized to eat organic food in the house. She was happy. That means there was identification, because she must be feeling affiliated to the people whom she was with. That's why she was happy to do what they were doing. But then she changes once she goes home. So it was a temporary influence on her, but then she's walked away from there and doing something else. That shows that it is only identification, because there was no private acceptance of the behavior of eating organic food. So then we can just, to explain that, we can say while in the house she happily ate the food, but then when she went away at her home, ate whatever her mother cooked. So this is the explanation why I'm saying it is identification, because once she went home, her real private behavior started showing. That private behavior hadn't changed. It was just in public till she was with the friends that she used to eat organic food. So again, the marking for this will be 1 mark per point. That's why we have structured it only in a way that we can get 1 mark for every point. Okay, the screen is lagging a little, so it might take a bit for it to come, but I think orally you must have understood what I'm saying. Let's come to the last question. That's also AO2, little briefer one. It is Annie's first day in her new job, and he spends a lot of time watching to see what his colleagues are doing. So he will fit in with them and be liked. We have to explain Annie's behavior in terms of compliance. So first thing that might have come to your mind when you saw to be fit in is NSI, but they're looking for types, not explanation. So they want to know why it is compliance. Again, it's AO2 entirely for 2 marks. In this case, his compliance is out of pressure. We know compliance has to be with out of pressure. So when you have a definite concept, they've told you only this is the concept, think in terms of the definition. I know compliance is about force or pressure. So where in Annie's behavior am I seeing that he's experiencing some type of force or pressure? I need to highlight that. So he is doing what his colleagues are doing to fit in, to be liked. He's watching what they are doing. So that shows like he's being pressurized to give a lot of time to see what they're doing. He's feeling that pressure that they won't like him unless he does what they are doing. So that's the kind of pressure which he's feeling. So in the first point, we can just explain that. And he's feeling pressured to do what they like. And in which behavior we are seeing the kind of pressure he's feeling, because he's keeping a lookout for what they are doing. I know this can be explained in terms of identification also, because he wants to be liked, he wants approval, but they have told us to explain in terms of compliance. So the same behavior can be interpreted differently also. So because they've said in terms of compliance, we have to talk about pressure. If we talk about approval or acceptance, that will go in the wrong direction. Identification, which they haven't asked us for. So he's looking out, he's feeling pressure to do what they like. And so he's giving a lot of time to what they do. So he's giving a lot of time looking out, showing that he's being compliant. That's all we need to explain in this. It's just for 2 marks. So 2 points of linking with the scenario is all we need to give. Okay, so that is for this video. We've reached the end of the video, and this completes the first topic within conformity. My next video will be on Ash's study. It'll be a little different also, because we'll get to see how to cover a study instead of theories. My forthcoming videos will be shorter than this also, like quicker, not necessarily shorter but quicker, because in the first video I have to explain a lot of things to you about how to learn, how to write answers and all. From next video onwards, I can refer to this video and tell you, okay, we just need to follow what I've said in the first video. So in that sense, they'll be quicker. And yes, we will learn how to do a study. We need to take a different approach. We have to look at it very critically and in a proper structure from aim to conclusion. So we learn how to do that. I'll also try to write an essay answer in that class, and from Ash would be a very good idea how to structure both EO1, EO3 in Peel format also. Although I've covered it in previous videos, we can do it specially for Ash's study. Okay, so I hope that you have learned not only like the first topic, but a lot of things along with that about how to write answers, how to prepare, how to approach the topic more than what the topic is about, because that is more important, developing skills in psychology rather than the misconception which is the of rote learning. Skill development is more important. So I hope you're taking it from that perspective. If you have any doubts or questions about this video, you want to give me any suggestions, you can leave them in the comments box below. If you're looking for tuition for psychology, you need private help. In that case, I am giving my phone number and email ID in the description box and in the pinned comment below. So I'll try to upload the next video soon. Till then, keep on practicing, keep on looking at the videos in my AQA playlist until we meet next time then. So goodbye and happy learning.